So now we will see the steps to create an object. First, we will have to create book object. To create object, or whenever we need any information about any object, we always have to use object manager. So go to object manager, then to create new object, click on create button and then click on custom object. Then specify the label of the object, which is books. Plural label will be books. So label is to refer to a single record of the object, and plural label is to refer to multiple records of the object. And the same plural label will be used as a label for a tab for the object. Whenever you are going to create a tab for this object, for a tab we always have plural labels of the object. Like for account, it's accounts. For contact, it's contacts.
Sorry, can you repeat that again?
Yeah, so this plural label is to refer to multiple records, and the same plural label will be used as a tab name. So for this object, we are also going to create a tab. So tab names are always plural labels of the object. Okay, so for account, we have the tab as accounts. For lead, we have leads. So it's always a plural label when it comes to tab. This is where the plural label will be used.
Okay.
Then whenever you specify label, object name gets populated automatically, same as label, which also makes sense. You don't have to change the object name, even though you have option to change it. And based on the object name, API name for the object will be created, which will be unique name for the object. In the label, you can have spaces also. Okay, so just as an example, let's say I specify the label as book ID, and then you can see object name is auto populated where space is replaced with underscore. So in labels, we can have spaces, we can have few special characters, but within the object name, which is a unique name for the object, spaces and all cannot be accepted, because these unique names will be used in programming, and within programming you cannot have spaces in between. So this is why we need unique name also for a object. Label is just to show it on the user interface. Okay, so next one, description. It's optional, but it's always a good practice to put some description for an object. Okay. Then help and training window. So for every page in Salesforce, if you have observed, we have this help link here. If you click on this help link, it provides some generic information about the page you are trying to access. So you can also customize this page. You can create your own page and provide the description. But in that case, you need to be aware of Visualforce, which is a programming language in Salesforce. So you can create a page and you can use that as a help and training window, or it is always fine to just use standard Salesforce help and training window. most of the times we use this only. It is not required to change. Next one is record name field. So whenever you create any custom object, by default system creates a standard field called as record name field. Okay? And we have an option to change the label of this record name field as well as the data type. By default, label is populated as book name, but if you want to change it, and let's say if you want to have it as a book ID or any other name, you are always allowed to change the label of it. Then data type. Data type has two options here, text and auto number. If we keep the data type as text, it means you can enter any text value in the field, which is what we want. So on book object, if you see, we need book name field where we can enter name of the book. So we need data type as text here. But let's have a look at auto number data type also. So if you select auto number as the data type, then the value in this field will be populated automatically based on the display format you specify. So let's say for an example, if you specify display format as this and starting number as 0, then when you create first book record, the value in this book name field will be bk hyphen 0000. For the second record, the value will be bk hyphen 0001, then 02, 03, 04, like this. It will keep on incrementing. Okay. So this is how auto number works. Okay. So as per our requirement, we need the data type as text only. Okay. So book name field, now it's going to be already available as a standard field. We don't have to again create a new field for book object. Any questions so far? Any doubt?
No.
No.
Okay. So let's move on. Optional features. So here, whichever features we need, we can enable those. While creating object, it is not really required to be worried about, required for us to worry about these optional features. We can come back later and enable any of these features again. Okay. But we will try to understand the purpose of every option here. So first one is allow reports. If you enable this feature, then you will be able to create reports on this object. A report is basically analytical tool with which you can extract the data or records in tabular format for analysis purpose. So if you allow reports, then only you can create reports on this object. Otherwise, you cannot. So if you have a reporting requirement, enable this feature. Next one is allow activities. Activities in Salesforce are basically task for user. Task is nothing but a work item for a user. So in Salesforce, users will be like sales agent, service agent. So what will be their task or work item? They may have to reach out to a customer, understand their business requirement, their needs and all, right? So these are kind of tasks for users. Whenever you want to create a task, you can assign that task to any user you want within Salesforce, and user will be obviously performing this task against one of the customer records. It could be lead record, It could be account record, it could be contact, it could be opportunity. So that task need to be associated with one of the customer record as well. Yeah. Now, when will you enable activities here? When a user is going to have a task related to book object records, then you can enable this allow activities option for book object. I don't think there will be any task related to book object records for a user. So at this point of time, I am not enabling this. Yeah. Next one is track field history. So once the record is created, the record will be updated, might be multiple times by different users. And if you want to keep track of the changes on the record, you can enable track field history. So with this, what happens is whenever any update happens on the record, you will have this field history related list available on the record detail page itself, where you can see which field is updated by a user, which user has updated the field, what was the old value of the field, what is the new value of the field, and at what time the field is updated. So you will see this history of changes on the record detail page itself. So this is called as field history tracking. So I am enabling this feature because it's always useful to track the changes on the records. On book object, it's not that important. When we have a very critical business data, then only we generally try to enable field history. Next one is allow in chatter groups. So just now we discussed about chatter. Chatter is nothing but a communicator in Salesforce with which users in the same Salesforce org can communicate with each other. So within the chatter group, if you want to store, if you want to share book records information, then you can enable allow in chatter groups. So with this, users can easily share book records information within the any chatter group. These are optional features. Then object classification, where you can see all the three options are already enabled. All the three options is basically for sharing of the records of the object. First one is allow sharing option. So we have gone through sharing settings like organization by default, sharing rules, right? So if you disable allow sharing from here, none of those sharing settings will work on the object. Basically, the object will be considered as a private object where one user cannot access the records of another user. So that is the reason we don't have to touch these settings unless and until it is really required. Okay. So allow sharing means it basically allows sharing of the records of this object through various settings like OWD and sharing rules. The next two settings are bulk API and streaming API. API stands for application programming interface. So with such APIs, you can basically do a integration between two applications. So any third-party application which wants to communicate with Salesforce, maybe to get the data from Salesforce or to save some information into Salesforce, those third-party application always need a API. So with this APIs, bulk API and streaming API, any third-party application can save the information in Salesforce or get the information in Salesforce. So if you want to have this feature for book object, then you can enable this feature. So as it is enabled, it means any third-party application can make use of this bulk API or streaming API and can get the book records information from Salesforce, or they can also create new book records within Salesforce, even though they are outside Salesforce. So it is basically for integration. Any questions so far?
It's a bit confusing. The allow bulk API access. That's
Yeah, it is basically for integration. So if you go for as a developer, if you work, then as a developer you get to work more on this APIs.
okay.
Otherwise, as an administrator, there is no much role of
Okay.
integration here. Okay, so you don't really have to worry much about this.
Okay.
You can just keep in mind that it is for integration between two applications.
Okay.
The next one is deployment status. So if you are still working on the object and if you do not want to allow any users to start using this object, then you can keep the deployment status as in development, and then you can save the object, so that after saving as well, this object cannot be used by any other user. Once you are done with complete configuration and if you want to roll out this object to all the users, then you can change the status to deployed and save. We will be using this object immediately as soon as it is created, so we'll keep the status as deployed here. Next one is search status, where we have a checkbox allow search. If you enable this, then what will happen is whenever you try to search for any records here, so this is called as global search box, where you can search for records and it shows you all the records of multiple objects. So it is showing one user record, it is showing one lead record, it is showing account and contact records as well. So if you want to show book object records as well in the result, then you need to enable this allow search. If you don't enable this, then whenever you search for the records here in the search results, book object records will not appear. So that's the only purpose of allow search. So I can just enable this, no issues. Next one is add notes and attachments related list to default page layout. So if you check this checkbox, then it will add notes and attachment related list on the book object layout, with which you can add any notes or files as a attachment on the book records. So I feel at the moment I don't have any requirement or need to attach any files or notes to book records. At the moment, I'm not enabling it. The last one, launch new custom tab wizard. So you can check this checkbox if you want to create a tab for this object immediately after saving this object. If you can check this checkbox and click on the save button, this object will be created, it will be saved, and we will be immediately get redirected to a custom tab wizard where we can create a tab for this object. I'm checking this checkbox now. Let's click on save. Now the object will be created and we have got redirected to a custom tab wizard. We are at step 1 where the object is already selected to create a tab. Now we can select a tab style. Tab style is nothing but just a icon for a tab. You can select any icon. and then click on next. Step 2 is to set up profile level visibility for this tab. We discussed about it earlier as well. Default on, default off, and tab done. So hope you are clear with this. So what I will do is, let's say I want to make this tab visible to only system administrator. In that case, what I will do, I will first hide this tab for all profiles. So whenever you select this first option, apply one tab visibility to all profiles, whatever option you select here, it will be applied to all the profiles. You can see here. I'll change it to tab hidden. It is updated to tab hidden for all the profiles. So I'm hiding this tab for all the profiles, and now I'll select the second option, apply different tab visibility. Now I have an option to change tab visibility for any profile I want. Now here, just for system administrator, I'll make it as default on. So this is how you can set up tab visibility. Any question here? So assume no. Let's click on next. Step 3 is to add this tab to a custom application. So by default, if you see, it is added to all the application. We don't want to add this tab to all the apps. So just uncheck this include tab checkbox, and we will add this tab only to a library application. So just check the checkbox for library application. That's it. Then save. Okay. You can see now the object is created, and you can see the API name of the object is object name, which is book, and then it adds a suffix to the API name underscore underscore C. So for every custom component in Salesforce, whether it's a custom object, custom field, any custom component, it Salesforce always adds underscore underscore C here, where C denotes that it's a custom component. It's just a naming convention, nothing else. And then there is also one prefix tst2 underscore underscore. You can just completely ignore this. When you create any object in your org, it will not appear. I was just experimenting few things in this org, that is the reason it adds this prefix here in the API name. But in general, you will not see any prefix like this. So these are the details of the object which we configured, track, field history, and all. Now, if you want to have a look at the fields of this object, you can go to fields and relationships, and you can see 4 fields already available on this object. Even though we created this object just now, there are 4 standard fields available. So all these are the standard fields which will be created automatically by Salesforce. One field we already know, book name field. We had an option to change the label of this field as well as the data type. So this is the name field. Apart from name field, 3 more fields are created on this object, created by, which is a user who creates the record. Last modified by is the user who has last modified the record, and owner, which is nothing but a user who owns the record. So these 4 standard fields you will see on all the custom objects as well as all standard objects as well. Name, created by, last modified by, and owner. You will find those fields on every object in Salesforce. Let's go to the library application. So earlier we had home tab, but now we have added books tab as well to library. Let's refresh it. Okay, so you can see books tab is added to a library application. So we can go here and let's create one record on book. Only book name is the field which we can enter at the moment. Then save. After saving on the detail page, it shows all the fields because created by and last modified by, they are formula fields. They get populated automatically. This is owner field. After creating the record, you can always change the owner by clicking on this icon. Okay, so this is all about how we can create.
I have a quick question.
Check. Yeah.
On the last screen, you said we can always change the ownership. Why is that? Is that necessary to do it, or we can keep as is?
Yeah, we can keep as is whenever we have a requirement. Like as I said, the purpose of ownership here is if you are owner of any record, it means you are it's your responsibility to manage and maintain the relationship with that customer.
Okay.
So if you want to hand over your work to some other person, maybe because you are on leave or something, in that case you can.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So ownership means you are owner, you have to deal with all these customers or you have to deal with all this data. So that's nothing but the ownership.
Okay.
Okay. So I think that's it for today. In the next session, we will see how to create a custom field. So we will have to create number of pages field, which is going to be a custom field on the book object, and then we will see how to create relationship fields like master detail or lookup.